The year is 2200. Humanity has mastered space travel and now lives in homes orbiting planets. Mommy, a young and talented potter, is deeply passionate about her craft, working in her studio inside one of these space-based homes. Her husband, Naoki, suggests she take a break. She washes her hands and joins him for dinner. Later, she accepts a delivery brought by a cargo shuttle, assisted by their household robot, Q. Suddenly, Mommy experiences a ringing in her ears, followed by a terrifying vision, red streaks, and herself lying in a pool of blood. But before she can process it, Naoki calls her name, reminding her of their doctor's appointment. She assures him she's fine, yet as he turns away, her face betrays her unease. They enter a room equipped with metaverse chairs, advanced devices that allow people to travel anywhere virtually. When the device activates, she finds herself in a clinic, where Naoki and the doctor are already waiting. She describes her frequent headaches and ringing ears. The doctor suspects post-traumatic stress disorder, explaining that she lost her memory after a coma caused by a head injury during a tsunami. However, Mommy has no recollection of the disaster. Later, Naoki gives an interview as the inventor of the first orbital homes, now inhabited by many of the planet's wealthy citizens. He believes that viewing Earth from space will help people cherish their home planet, allowing them to return once the climate improves. Meanwhile, Mommy admires a fresh tomato harvest in their greenhouse. The produce looks perfect, and Q praises her, helping her gather greens for dinner. That evening, she surprises Naoki with his favorite soup. He's thrilled he never expected her to cook again. Mommy then writes something on a slip of paper, explaining she wants to keep a journal of events to help restore her memories, especially of when they first met, fell in love, and moved into a beach house, which was said to be the happiest time of their marriage. However, this idea unsettles Naoki. He insists it's too soon to return to Earth, urging her to focus on the future rather than dwell on the past. Ignoring his advice, Mommy recalls a rainy day when a drenched young man arrived at her home, carrying a backpack containing the robot, Q. She had been working on pottery, but stepped out of her studio to offer him shelter from the storm. Naoki was fascinated by her pottery and wanted to buy a vase, but Mommy considered it flawed and gave it to him as a gift. Back in the present, they head to bed, but suddenly, Naoki pushes her away. Confused, Mommy asks what she did wrong, but he refuses to explain. To her shock, he claims he knows her better than she knows herself, because she is not Mommy. As he raises a knife, she jolts awake, disturbed. The next day, she visits the doctor, telling him about the nightmare. It felt too real. He reassures her, insisting it's just a symptom of PTSD. He reminds her that Naoki never left her side during her coma. Even when the doctor believed she would never wake up, Naoki refused to give up hope. When she finally regained consciousness, he was overwhelmed with joy. Later, Mommy takes a shower, but horror strikes again. Bloody streaks appear on the glass, and a sharp pain grips her neck. That evening, Naoki tenderly dries her hair, trying to lift her spirits. During the day, Mommy works in her studio. As she picks up a bowl, a buried memory resurfaces. She remembers striking someone with it. A man had once broken into her home, demanding to buy pottery. When she refused, saying it was too fragile, he attacked her. Naoki had rushed in and fought the intruder with terrifying ferocity. She had begged him to stop, but he didn't relent until the man was unconscious. Shaken, Mommy had treated Naoki's wounds and thanked him for protecting her, but pleaded with him never to fight again. It had frightened her. He promised that, from now on, Q would defend her instead. She had smiled while tending to his injuries, and that was the beginning of their love. In the present, Naoki reviews Mommy's psychological profile when he hears music playing. He finds her napping on the couch, a dusty record spinning on the turntable. She wakes up and confesses she loves the melody and remembers it entirely. Naoki then suggests they look at the real moon. He takes her to an observation window, and Mommy is mesmerized. The moon is red. Naoki explains it's due to a lunar eclipse. She dreams of one day walking on the moon, but for some reason, her words unsettle him. Suddenly, he pushes her into an airlock, sealing her inside. Repeating his chilling claim, "You're not Mommy," he prepares to open the outer door. At first, she laughs, thinking it's a joke. But as he continues, fear grips her. With mounting horror, she realizes he's serious. She forces the doors apart and makes it back inside. Just like in her dream, Naoki raises a knife and drives it into her neck. But instead of blood, a white fluid seeps out. He pulls a chip from the base of her neck, leaving the android's motionless body on the floor. Without hesitation, he orders Q to dispose of it. Later, alone, Naoki weeps, remembering the night he found his wife's mutilated body on the shore. The next day, he visits the doctor and admits he got rid of the android because it was defective. The backup memory must have been corrupted. However, the doctor objects, insisting he installed the memory exactly as Naoki requested. But something doesn't add up. On that particular day, Mommy couldn't have remembered that melody. Naoki ignores the concern and demands another version, this time an earlier one. When the doctor hesitates, Naoki reminds him that plenty of specialists can handle memory transfers, so he can easily go elsewhere. The doctor relents, explaining that the previous Mommy's memory was saved from a point after their honeymoon. That means Naoki now wants an even earlier version, one without any knowledge of that other woman. If she questions the tsunami story, he'll simply tell her the truth. She's an android. Later, a new Mommy arrives at the orbital home. When she awakens, she has no idea where she is. Naoki explains that they went out to make memory copies, but there was an accident and she died. Mommy refuses to believe it but then hesitates, asking how long it's been. 5 years, he tells her. Shocked, she jumps out of bed and rushes to the window. But suddenly, she calms down and lets Naoki embrace her. He thanks her for coming back to him. The next day, Mommy is in her workshop when Naoki enters and playfully throws a cracker at her. She throws one back and they goof around. She then shows him their wedding photo, confessing that it was the happiest day of her life. He agrees, but reminds her that every other day was just as happy. Mommy admits she feels like she's cheated death. But will it be enough for him to have just a copy of her? Naoki reassures her, saying it's the best solution under the circumstances. Then, he suggests they travel somewhere together. In the next instant, they're driving down a beautiful road, surrounded by trees, basking in the warmth of the sunshine and the sound of birdsong. They stop at a small shrine, where Mommy suddenly notices a house nearby. As she walks toward it, the scene around her shifts. She seems to slip into an earthbound bar, where she meets a woman named Jab. Before she can process it, Naoki calls her name, and the vision fades. They continue their journey, arriving at a beach house, where they spent their honeymoon. Mommy recognizes the objects in the living room, then it starts to rain. Overcome with emotion, Mommy runs outside, letting the warm raindrops wash over her face. Naoki catches up to her, but suddenly, she remembers. Flashes of her encounters with Jab flood her mind. She sees the woman's face before her and calls out her name. Naoki's smile fades. The couple returns to the orbital home, but Mommy feels uneasy. She tries to explain, but Naoki leads her to an elevator. They ascend to the top of the tower, where gravity is negligible. Floating weightlessly, Mommy momentarily forgets everything, lost in the strange sensation. But as she grows accustomed to it, she turns to her husband and says, "I can't stay here." He knew all along. She was seeing someone else. Naoki pretends he doesn't understand. Besides, it doesn't matter now. But Mommy insists it does. She loves Jab. She can't be with him. Naoki embraces her, and then, in one swift motion, breaks the android's neck. He clutches yet another copy of his wife and sobs, recalling a rainy day when she begged him not to hurt her. She pleaded for him to never use violence. But that was the day he realized she had found someone else, and lost control. He wasn't a cruel man, yet Mommy had shown him the bruises on her arm from his grip. Enraged, he had smashed the furniture, while all she could think about was Jab. The next day, Naoki found them together in the living room, listening to Dusi, his wife, wrapped in another woman's arms. Later, Mommy announced she was leaving him. She even tried to erase his playful portrait drawn on the glass partition. Now, in the present, Naoki goes to the doctor again. This time, he wants Mommy's memory reset to the day they first met. Their wedding, their honeymoon, everything after that should be erased. He wants one last chance to win back his wife. Soon, the new android arrives at the house. But this time, when Mommy sees him, she's terrified, like she's woken up a hostage of a total stranger. Naoki tries to reassure her, reminding her that she always dreamed of going to space. He describes their wedding, their happy life together in the beach house. But she has no memory of it. He had hoped she would recognize him and fall in love with him again. If she doesn't, he won't force her to stay. Mommy hesitates, then calms down and agrees to give it a chance. That night, as Naoki wishes her goodnight, Mommy lies awake. She searches the room and finds a note hidden in the vanity. A warning. Naoki will kill you. At that moment, he enters. He tells her he's leaving on business, but when he returns, he'll show her around the house. Once he's gone, Mommy finds Q and begs the robot to help her escape. Q leads her to the elevator, but instead of freedom, it takes her to the top of the tower. Confused, she demands to know who wrote the note. Then, she hears her own voice. Turning around, she sees an exact copy of herself. "I did," the duplicate says. Mommy is stunned. Around her, more versions of herself silently emerge from the shadows. They explain Q saved them, but Naoki erased their identities. Yet, pieces of their memories still remain. They are all the same person. And now, she must save them. Q reveals that it can summon a transport shuttle. Mommy suggests they escape on it, but first, they must share their memories. The process begins. Time rewinds to a fateful evening. Naoki finds Mommy packing her suitcase. He begs her to stay, but she shows him the bruises on her skin. He always promised not to hurt her again. And she always believed him, but it kept happening. Maybe it was because of his own childhood suffering. But she couldn't endure it anymore. She walks into the yard. He follows. Seeing the knife in his hand, Mommy panics and climbs onto the parapet. Naoki drops the blade. Yet, at that moment, he shoves her. Mommy falls. Her body washes up on the shore. He weeps over her lifeless form. Back in the present, Naoki arrives for dinner. Mommy has made his favorite soup. But how did she know? Then he notices her taped-up neck. This isn't the latest version of Mommy. It's an earlier one. She flees. Meanwhile, the latest Mommy continues exchanging memories with her duplicates. Naoki hunts down the earlier version, cornering her in the greenhouse. She briefly tricks him, but in the end, he kills her. He rushes to the elevator. But Mommy, now warned of his approach, orders Q to stop him. The robot disables the lift, forcing Naoki to climb the shaft manually. Meanwhile, Mommy arms herself, preparing to trap him in the airlock. She thanks Q, perhaps the last shred of humanity left in her husband. Reaching the tower, Naoki lunges at Mommy. She flees, leading him into the airlock. But before the doors can close, he escapes and seizes her. Q intervenes, reminding him of his past command, to protect Mommy. Naoki ignores it. He raises his hand to strike, but the androids stop him. Mommy takes her chance. She throws a knife. It strikes Naoki in the chest. He stumbles, the copies of Mommy watching in silence. "You destroyed everything," she tells him. "We will never forgive you." Naoki suddenly remembers how they once dreamed of living in space together, how they had drawn pictures of it on a glass partition. He weeps. Then, Mommy helps him up and leads him to the shuttle. But at the last moment, he shoves her inside and seals the door. As Mommy departs, Naoki steps into space. With Q's help, he drifts into the void. On Earth, at the beach house, Jab welcomes Mommy with tea. She admits she feels like she's lost part of her memory. Jab reassures her. It happens to everyone. A beautiful film with incredible music. A terrifying look at a shattered relationship, where abuse reaches its most extreme form, ending in death. Even in the future, can people ever truly free themselves from this curse? So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.